So you another one of those Jado guys, dude?
I could be.
Ever wonder what happens when you mash together the charm of old school comics, a pinch of movie magic, and the wild world of video games? You get Viewtiful Joe, a game that's more than just a pretty face and a flashy cape. Launched in the golden era of gaming, this title wasn't just another addition to the shelf, it was a revolution in spandex. Now let's rewind to the early 2000s. Gaming was evolving rapidly, polygons were becoming less pointy, and gamers were itching for something fresh. Enter Viewtiful Joe, Capcom's answer to the call for innovation. This wasn't just a game, it was a celluloid superhero leaping out of your TV, ready to redefine what it meant to play a side-scroller. But before we dive headfirst into the world of movie-themed beatdowns and time-bending gameplay, let's set the stage for how this underdog title punched above its weight class and became a cult classic. Buckle up, because this is going to be a beautiful ride. In the labyrinth corridors of Capcom, where game ideas spring to life like popcorn in a hot pan, Viewtiful Joe began as a mere spark in the creative minds behind it. The mastermind? None other than legendary Atsushi Inaba, along with his team of gaming wizards at Team Viewtiful. They set out not just to create a game, but to craft an experience that was a love letter to both cinema and video games. The genesis of Viewtiful Joe was like that moment in a superhero movie when the hero discovers their powers. Except here, the power was creativity, and the hero was a team of developers. They wanted to blend the zany antics of Japanese tokusatsu, just think Power Rangers on a sugar rush, with a gameplay style that felt like controlling an action-packed movie. But, as with any great tale, there were dragons to slay along the way. Development was more of a roller coaster than a smooth ride. Imagine trying to convince the big shots that what gamers really want was a title that looked like a comic book had a baby with a 1950s movie reel. Risky doesn't even start to cover it. And let's not forget the technical challenges. Creating a game that seamlessly integrated VFX powers like slow motion and zoom-ins, all while running smoother than a superhero's one-liner. It was a tall order, but Team Viewtiful was up for the challenge. So armed with their wits, a quirky sense of humor, and a passion for the dramatic, the team embarked on a journey to bring Viewtiful Joe to life. They were about to introduce the world to a game that didn't just break the mold, it drop-kicked it into the next dimension. Viewtiful Joe just wasn't any game. It was like the cool kid in the arcade, wearing shades, casually leaning on a pinball machine. It oozed style and charm, and most importantly, gameplay that could make even the most seasoned gamers raise an eyebrow of intrigue. Let's start with the basics. You're Joe. Your average Joe. Pun absolutely intended. Who gets sucked into movie land to rescue his girlfriend. Classic, right? But here's the twist. In movie land, Joe transforms into Viewtiful Joe, a superhero with all the right moves. The gameplay? It's a side-scrolling beat-em-up, but with a genius twist. Imagine being able to control the flow of time, like a director in a movie. Slow it down for dramatic effect, speed it up to get your heart racing, and zoom in for those killer close-ups. It's like having a remote control for the universe. But Viewtiful Joe wasn't just about beating up baddies in style. The game's unique art style was a standout feature. Picture this, a world that's a cross between a 3D environment and a 2D comic book, bursting with colors so vibrant you need sunglasses to play. This was a game that didn't just want to be played, it wanted to be experienced. And let's not forget the soundtrack, an electrifying mix that perfectly complemented the game's visual flair. The music wasn't just background noise, it was a key player in the immersive experience. It was like having an epic movie score for your own personal superhero journey. In short, Viewtiful Joe was a game that dared to be different. It threw the rulebook out the window and replaced it with a comic book. It wasn't just a game, it was a statement. A declaration that games could be so much more than what we're used to. They could be bold, they could be artistic, and above all, they could be downright beautiful. When Viewtiful Joe hit the shelves, it wasn't just a release. It was more like a superhero landing. Impactful and impossible to ignore. The game made its grand entrance in 2003, and let's just say it didn't tiptoe in. It burst onto the scene with the subtlety of a fireworks display in a library. Gamers and critics alike didn't know what hit them. Here was a game that defied convention. A game that was as much as a feast for the eyes as it was a challenge for the thumbs. The critics showered it with praise, lauding everything from its innovative gameplay to its unique art style. Viewtiful Joe was hailed as a breath of fresh air in a market that was starting to feel a bit stale. It was like someone had opened a window in a room full of gamers and yelled, "Hey, check out this view!" And the sales? Well, Viewtiful Joe didn't just sell well, it sold like hotcakes at a superhero convention. Gamers were drawn to its charm and challenge, and quickly became a must-have title for anyone who called themselves a fan of action games. It was the game that you just had to play, the one you discussed with your friends in hushed, awe-filled tones. But it wasn't just the gameplay or the art that captured everyone's attention. It was the way Viewtiful Joe made players feel. For the duration of the game, you weren't just a person holding a controller. You were a superhero. You were Joe, the guy who went from zero to hero, from spectator to spectacle, in a world that was becoming increasingly complex and sometimes a little too real. Viewtiful Joe offered a chance to escape into a world where the good guys always win, and they always do it with style. In the end, Viewtiful Joe wasn't just a game. It was a statement. It was Capcom's way of saying, look what games can be. It was bold, it was brash, and it was unapologetically fun. It was, in every sense of the word, beautiful. In the grand tapestry of video game history, Viewtiful Joe didn't just stitch its name in. It embroidered it with neon thread and sparkles. This game didn't just leave a footprint, it left a boot-shaped crater. Its impact on the gaming culture and its influence on the industry were as unmistakable as its vivid color palette. Let's talk impact. Viewtiful Joe didn't just shuffle the deck of gaming norms, it threw the cards up in the air and rearranged them into a mural of innovation. Its unique blend of 2D gameplay in a 3D world, combined with its movie-like VFX powers, inspired a whole new generation of games. Developers looked at Viewtiful Joe and thought, hey, maybe we can be a little wild too. It was like a permission slip to get creative, and the gaming world was all the better for it. But it wasn't just developers who took notice. Gamers around the globe embraced Joe and his beautiful world. Fan art, cosplays, and even amateur game mods popped up like mushrooms after a rainstorm. The game struck a chord, resonating with anyone who ever dreamed of being a superhero. It wasn't just about playing a game, it was about being a part of something bigger, something brighter, something more beautiful. And the legacy of Viewtiful Joe, it's as lasting as the memories of anyone who's ever donned that iconic red cape and mask in-game. This title proved that there's a place in gaming for style, for substance, and for good old-fashioned fun. It reminded everyone that games could be art, that they could tell a story in a way no other medium could. Viewtiful Joe was more than just a game. It was a beautiful journey into what gaming could be when you dare to dream in Technicolor. In a world that often takes itself too seriously, Viewtiful Joe was a reminder to embrace the outrageous, to find joy in the absurd, and to always, I mean always, keep it beautiful. Now, this game might have been a kaleidoscope of comic book punches and cinematic kicks, but it wasn't without its own set of controversies and industry challenges. It's like every superhero story. You can't have triumph without a bit of conflict, am I right? First up on the controversy conveyor belt, the game's difficulty level. Viewtiful Joe was tough. Not just bite your lip tough, but throw your controller through the window tough. Some players loved the challenge. They ate it up like a superhero eats danger for breakfast. But others felt like they were stuck in a never-ending loop of villainous beatdowns. It sparked a debate. How hard is too hard? Viewtiful Joe didn't just push the envelope, it drop-kicked it into next week. And then there's the representation angle. In an era where gaming was starting to grapple with its own portrayal of characters, Viewtiful Joe waltzed in with all the subtlety of a comic book explosion. Its characters were larger than life, but they didn't exactly push the boundaries of diversity. It was a missed opportunity in a game that was otherwise so groundbreaking. Amidst these challenges, Viewtiful Joe also faced the broader issues of the gaming industry at the time. The early 2000s were the Wild West of sorts, a time of transition and transformation. Games were becoming more mainstream, but with that came growing pains. Questions about representation, about storytelling, and about what gaming should be as an art form. Viewtiful Joe, in all its beautiful glory, found itself smack in the middle of these controversies. Despite these challenges, Viewtiful Joe stood as a testament to creativity and innovation in gaming. It showed that even in the face of controversy and industry upheaval, games could be fun, they could be challenging, and above all, could be unapologetically bold. In a world full of uncertainty, Viewtiful Joe was a beacon of colorful, beautiful certainty. And as we zoom out from the vibrant world of this game, it's time to take a beautiful look back at what this game really meant. Viewtiful Joe wasn't just a blip on the gaming radar. It was a full-blown, color-saturated firework display in the night sky of the early 2000 gaming scene. Let's recap the adventure, shall we? We started with a game that blended cinema and comics into a side-scrolling masterpiece. A game that dared to ask, what if the player was not just playing a hero, but directing the action too? Viewtiful Joe wasn't just innovative, it was a revolution in red tights. Critically acclaimed and beloved by fans, it challenged players with its devilish difficulty while dazzling them with its unique art style and dynamic gameplay. It was a reminder that games can be hard, they can be beautiful, and they can tell a story in ways no other mediums can. But Viewtiful Joe was more than just the sum of its parts. It was a cultural phenomenon that resonated with fans and influenced future games. It showed that there's room in the gaming world for the bold, the bright, and the beautiful. It was a testament to the power of creativity and the impact of daring to be different. In a world where games often chase trends and play it safe, Viewtiful Joe stood out as a beacon of originality. It was a reminder to game developers and players alike that sometimes the most memorable experiences come from taking risks, from doing something out of the ordinary. It wasn't just a game, it was a beautiful journey, a Technicolor dream that reminded us why we fell in love with gaming in the first place. So as we bid farewell to Joe and his beautiful world, we're left with a question. What does it mean to be beautiful? Maybe it's about seeing the world not as it is, but as it could be, full of color, full of life, and full of endless possibilities. In the end, Viewtiful Joe was more than just a game. It was a beautiful vision of what gaming can and should be. And that, dear gamers, is a wrap. If you like what you saw here today on the Retro Reload and want to see more breakdowns of the history of gaming, check out this video here.